Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in on this deep dive about why video games are one of the keys for helping humanity wake up. Reason number one that I went into 2 weeks ago is that video games are already an identity hack. And that's a really cool concept. Go back, watch that video. There will be a link in the bottom here. It's a cool idea if you haven't been exposed to it already. Reason number two is a little more intuitive. It's that we are what we practice, and video games help us practice. Reason number three, and this is going to be my first time really going into technology, because gaming is already the focal point for immersive technology. So, do you all remember smartphones back before smartphones were a big deal? Like, you could tell there was kind of something new here, but you couldn't even begin to smell how drastically smartphones have impacted our lives, for better or worse, you know? Like, there are amazing ways that smartphones have impacted our lives. It makes it easier for me to do this and share this with you. I'm recording this on my smartphone right now. There are also horrible ways, like they're terribly intrusive in our lives, and I think that's less about the technology itself and more that we just haven't figured out how to integrate it, and we haven't properly learned the lessons from the technology yet. And of course, all of that's going to happen with virtual reality, augmented reality, all of these new technologies. It's not to get all cloudy. Obviously, there are these negative aspects that we're going to discover and have to grapple with. But the important thing that I want to bring up right now is that entertainment tends to be the place where a lot of these sorts of new, powerful technologies begin to get their foot in on culture. So I'm not just talking, when I talk about these technologies, I'm not really just talking about virtual reality and augmented reality, but also biosensors, immersion pods, art and music altogether, role play. All of these things come together in gaming, or are coming together in gaming. And so there's a really amazing conversation happening right now about the future of humanity's relationship with technology. And you would think that that conversation would be happening in like healthcare and wellness, and it is. But I think the most important place it actually happens is in entertainment. Gaming is the place where all of this comes together in artful expression, and that artistry is really important, because when you come at a problem from a place of there's this problem, how do we fix it? What's the right way to address this? It doesn't actually leave room for something I think that's really important, that really only happens in the arts. Not only happens in the arts, but happens in the most pronounced way in the arts, and that's this sort of bubbling up of inspiration. You know, the way an artist works, and artists play an incredibly important role in our society, is to listen to what's happening, not in the mind and not in the world out here. It's a shitty artist, by the way, who like pays attention to what's happening out there and tries to meet the need. That's like those are not happy artists. Anyway, but the real important work of an artist is to kind of sit in quiet and listen to what wants to be heard, and then give it voice. That flash of inspiration is part of what makes gaming and entertainment so powerful. So all of these technologies that are converging on entertainment right now are all about immersion. It's kind of such a buzzword right now. And if you care about impacting people, then you really care about immersion. Because the greater the immersion in any experience, the greater your exposure to the stimulus. And if that's an artistic stimulus, that the greater you're brought into it, and the greater it can teach you, the greater it can impact you. So immersion, I think we're just beginning to really develop a deeper understanding of this, but you can kind of go back 10, 20, 100, 1,000 years ago, and great fiction or great poetry is more immersive. It's just now we're using electronic technology to amplify immersion, which gives artists access to a more more complete access to the person that they're trying to communicate with. So when you're playing an immersive experience, when you're in an immersive experience, it's easier to forget who you are, which means it's easier to let go of your former identities. It's easier to practice being something new and something that serves who you are right now. Immersion is super, super, super important to everything I've been talking about in this video series. And it's happening here in gaming. So given that gaming is where all of this innovation is happening, it's of course where the new modes of consciousness are going to occur. And if we're not conscious about that, as we are unconscious about that, we are going to invite some of the negative aspects of some of the darker sides of this technology out. And inversely, as we bring more consciousness and love to it, the more this technology will be a force for good. And just as important as the technology, the more the economic infrastructure that supports the technology and supports people experiencing these things will itself be a force for good and for transformation as well. All right, so that is part 3 of this 5-part series on why video games are a key to the global awakening happening right now. I'll be back next week with part 4, which is all about scalability. If you'd like to drop a comment or a question, please do so on the video, and I will do my very best to provide some answers and thoughts at the end of next week's video. Thank you very much.